Welcome to News Today with WW News Today. I'm Tom Corliss. Here now the news for December 19th, 2019. Big Top Souvenirs reopened on Tuesday at the Magic Kingdom following last week's incident. Last Wednesday, the store and Pete's Silly Sideshow were closed due to a supposed fire. Earlier this week, Pete's Silly Sideshow returned to normal operation. The outside of Big Top Souvenirs was completely unaffected by the incident. Inside, we noticed that some of the center shelving units were missing, but when we asked about the missing shelves, cast members said that they had been removed from the store for an unrelated reason. Either way, the store's back. Whatever happened. Yeah, maybe Dumbo escaped a fire with his magic feather. Who knows? Unfortunately, guests at Tuesday night's Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party at the Magic Kingdom had to deal with an extremely rainy night. But to make up for this less than ideal situation, Disney made a big attempt to have their guests still leave happy. According to WWNT reader Patricia Swift, Disney converted guest party tickets to a complimentary one-day non-park hopper admission to a Walt Disney World theme park of their choice within 1 year of issuance. However, if they'd rather try for an event night with better weather conditions, they could convert their admission ticket to a future Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party date in 2019. This is interesting because usually this isn't really marketed to people. Usually if it's rainy, you just have to go to guest relations and be like, hey, can I come to another one? Usually they're pretty good about it, but it's interesting that they gave people like a pamphlet and things like that. But it was really rainy. Disney Villains After Hours returns to the Magic Kingdom for 24 select nights starting February 7th, 2020, and there are new villainous experiences to be had. The Villains Cursed Caravan will join Maleficent the Dragon as she creeps through the park twice nightly. The Wicked Procession features Gaston, Oogie Boogie, Cruella de Vil, Captain Hook, and more. A few of the new treats this year will include the Painting the Roses Red, available at the Cheshire Cafe, a cheesecake mousse with raspberry gelée, red cocoa butter, and buttercream leaves. The Body Language, oh boy, available at Storybook Treats, is cookies and cream mousse with chocolate cake and meringue tentacles garnished with a chocolate shell. And finally, the jokes write themselves. The 5 Dozen Egg Slush, available at Gaston's Tavern. News tonight, back on January 2nd, everybody. The 5 Dozen Egg Slush will be a frozen custard with brown sugar, topped with whipped cream and garnished with a cinnamon stick. Guests can also purchase new event merchandise as well as items from a curated collection of the best Disney villain merchandise available. Tickets are on sale now. You can check out a full review of Disney Villains After Hours from last year that we wrote on WDWNT.com. New permanent signage for the film Awesome Planet has been installed outside the Old Harvest Theater in the Land Pavilion at Epcot ahead of the show's big debut on January 17th at the start of the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. The sign is beautifully 3D printed with the bold letters coming out against the silver-blue backing. The letters themselves are printed with a photo of the Earth as seen from space. The sign is illuminated with a kaleidoscope effect, giving the sign some added dimension. And sadly, this film has nothing to do with Captain Planet, I've been told. Very sad about that. I'm in a mood today. In an effort to ensure that all guests know what to expect when visiting Hollywood Studios, Disney has announced that the boarding groups will be available at the published park opening time for Rise of the Resistance. The park may welcome guests onto Hollywood Boulevard prior to the opening of the rest of the park, and limited nearby locations will be open for guest convenience. At the park's published opening time, the virtual queue for Rise of the Resistance will open along with offerings throughout the rest of Hollywood Studios. Guests must be inside of Hollywood Studios to access the virtual queue in the My Disney Experience app, and then even sometimes then it won't work. But anyway, Disney will continue to also distribute backup boarding groups after the initial planned groups have been filled. Backup boarding groups will only be called if the initial planned boarding groups have been called back and there is capacity for more riders in the evening. If they are able to accommodate boarding groups in the evening, guests will be notified through the My Disney Experience app by a push notification if you have it enabled. I will tell you, I am not a fan of this new process. We went and tried it this morning. I think it's particularly unfair. I think it's really unfair to let a bunch of people in and then everyone's just got to fight on an app. I don't think that's very fair. As you know, the My Disney Experience app has a lot of problems. Sometimes park tickets don't register that they're in the park right away, and sometimes even up to 20 minutes. It just seems like a very unfair way to acquire a boarding group. And, and some of them could be very late. You could show up very early and end up riding this ride like at park close. It just seems really unfair. I saw it rubbed me really the wrong way. I saw people high-fiving in line at the Starbucks, like people who showed up at like 7:10 who got great boarding groups. Meanwhile, there's people in line at guest relations who showed up at 6:30 in the morning who couldn't get it to work, and they're going to give them a later boarding group. It's kind of nonsense. But anyway, that's how it's working now. You can be in the park before 7, but no matter what, the boarding groups aren't going on the app till 7 a.m. Whether you're using mobile order to save time in line or grab a meal for later, you now have options as to how your food comes packaged upon pickup at Walt Disney World. You could choose for here or to-go options. Yes, the latest in technology. Those options are now available at Riviera Resorts Primo Piatto and at Deluxe Burger in Disney Springs. Only those 2 locations for the time being. And basically, it'll either be plated or packaged for you to leave with it. Packaging options will be added to mobile order at other restaurants in the near future. Bongos Cuban Cafe at Disney Springs is nearly completely demolished. Bongos is being replaced by the Beatrix Health Foods restaurant, coffee house, and grab-and-go market. There's almost nothing left of the former Bongos, as you can see in the imagery we're showing you now, just a small portion of the cement structure remaining. Originally, it was believed that some of the infrastructure or framework from the existing building would be repurposed for the new restaurant. This wouldn't lead us to believe that the restaurant's going to open on time. They've now demolished the whole thing. We'll see when Beatrix will actually open. It's supposed to open sometime next year. A new The Aristocats collection by Dooney Bourke will debut Friday at the Walt Disney World Resort. The collection will feature a large tote, a smaller wristlet, and a barrel bag. The leather fuchsia background really pops against the various vignettes from the classic Aristocats animated film from 1970. Pricing has not been revealed for the collection, but Dooney Bourke bags are typically in the $100 to $300 range. At the newly opened Disney's Riviera Resort Monday night, a family awoke to a loud bang after a Murphy bed. Colleen, stop shaking your head. Colleen's back here shaking her head. No, Colleen, this happened. A family awoke to a loud bang after a Murphy bed became detached from the wall and fell on top of a family member who was sleeping in it. Now the resort is taking precautions by marking all of the Murphy beds out of order. You know, like a vending machine. And asking guests not to use, this isn't the comedy show, asking guests not to use them. Maintenance at the resort has been leaving advisory notices inside rooms with similar Trundle or Murphy beds to avoid further incidents. The advisories left on the beds read, quote, "We apologize for the inconvenience. This Trundle bed is out of order." I'm sorry. This Trundle bed is out of order, and for your safety, it cannot be used at this time. We want to ensure your stay is as comfortable as possible. Maybe uncomfortable if it falls on you. If you had planned to use this bed, please contact the front desk so alternative arrangements can be provided. Analysis of the photo from the incident reported this Tuesday morning shows that the furniture housing the Murphy bed was not properly installed or anchored to the wall, leading it to tip over and collapse with too much weight on the bed. Guests who were intending on using the fifth sleeper are being relocated to 2-bedroom villas to accommodate every member of the group. According to the Orlando Sentinel, Michael Sigilis, Virgin's EVP for infrastructure, told local officials that Disney and Virgin Trains USA are in advanced talks for a train station to be built on or near the resort. This station, whether built on or near Disney property, would be a part of the proposed rail line to Tampa. The Tampa rail line would start at the Orlando International Airport, the termination of the Miami to Orlando line, which is slated to open in 2022. Virgin is still working with the Central Florida Expressway Authority, the Florida Department of Transportation, and the Orlando Utilities Commission to negotiate leases and right-of-ways for the Orlando to Tampa line. Additional proposed stops on this rail line would include the Sunrail Meadowood Station and Lakeland. A high-speed rail line would provide a quick and inexpensive option for guests traveling from the airport, downtown Orlando, and even Tampa. 2 convenient ways to get from local airports to the Disneyland Resort will soon be no more. That's right, at Walt Disney World, we're making it easier. At Disneyland, they don't care. Coach USA announced yesterday they will be ending their Disneyland Resort Express bus service after January 7, 2020, bringing to an end the Disney-sanctioned motor coach service. In addition, Super Shuttle has announced they are ending their service to LAX at the end of the year. December 31st, 2019 will be the last day of operation for Super Shuttle, which was an inexpensive way for guests arriving at LAX to journey to the Disneyland Resort via shared shuttle van. This now leaves only shuttle vans and rental cars as official Disneyland Resort transportation to both LAX and John Wayne Airport, or SNA. One glaring omission still remains months after Batu's opening on both coasts: the roaming interactive droids that were promised when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was first announced. For the first few months of the land's opening, heavy crowds were cited as the reason to not roll out these autonomous droid characters. But in a recent piece by the Orange County Register asking when the droids would be debuting at Galaxy's Edge, it appears Imagineering now has no plans to use the autonomous character technology in Galaxy's Edge. Disney tested these autonomous droids several times at Disneyland Park and even at the D23 Expo. The most famous of these is Jake, or J4K3, which has more sensors than a self-driving car. In the Register piece, Imagineering went on to explain that Jake was merely exploratory and independent from anything that was being developed for Galaxy's Edge, sure, and no decisions have been made on where or when the droids will be used again. So it makes it sound like a budgetary cut. We're not very surprised. We lost all of the alien creatures that were supposed to walk around the land too, so not really shocked. Thanks, Bob Chapek. For more information on these stories and more, head on over to WDWNT.com. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to like this video, subscribe to WDW News Today on YouTube for more great content, and click the bell for notifications. A couple of quick notes. This is not our permanent setup. We are still in the process of moving things around here in the studio. So this is what it's going to look like for now, but we're moving stuff. We're making new backdrops. All sorts of things are going to be changing in the coming weeks. Another important note is we're going to be off for a week. So we will not have any News Today shows next week thanks to the Christmas holiday, but we will see you all the week after. For the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, this is Tom Corliss saying enjoy the rest of your today and have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.